Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for To Your Eternity, chapter 164.2. When we last left our heroes, the Beholder had his final day as himself. The time has come for the Beholder to fade away, and for Satoru to be all that remains, losing both his powers and all memories of those powers, and all memories that only came about because of those powers. So he'll lose his memories of the Immortals, and solely become the human Satoru. He bids his goodbye. He leaves an earthenware pot with his memories in case Fushi ever gets bored, which, looking at the first couple pages of this chapter that I saw already, is what this chapter will be about. And bids his farewell. The Ranrail gang is a little more mad at him than the others, and March delivers this sort of takedown of him, of like, what, I did all this for Fushi as his mother, what the fuck have you done? And the Beholder, interestingly, just says he did nothing. He takes no credit for anything to do with Fushi, but Fushi corrects March that it was the Beholder who brought him to all of his friends. An unusual bit of goodwill towards the Beholder at the very end, which I guess he can be deserved that little bit of goodwill. But with that said, let's dive right on in chapter 164.2 to Fushi Part 2. And we see... what I'm assuming, Fushi has not started reading the pot yet, as he's still in his nameless boy form. And this appears to be, like, March is still outside, as Satoru left. Progress reports. I do think this is the words of the pot, though. This final report will be nothing more than a will. Because Fushi turns into Echo's brother and starts to read the pot. Left behind for my fragment. The fragment being Fushi, I think. In the beginning, I was no one. So yeah, you're getting full-on, like, backstory to the backstory for the whole series. There was only the sensation that I existed, and the sensation that there were many others around me. Okay, so there are more Beholders around, more gods? We amused ourselves by transforming our sensations. We lengthened, twisted, and expanded them, giving them meaning. We communicated these to others, and I accepted them as well. I am not quite sure what's meant by transforming our sensations, or like by lengthening a sensation and twisting a sensation. I don't know. The use of the word sensation there is a little curious to me. I don't know. Might be. I'm not sure actually, because I normally think like a feeling, but like we lengthen it. It almost feels like the Beholder is using them to mean forms or something. I don't know. We could create anything we wished. We repeated it over and over again. There we had no concept of the impossible. An eternity of time passed. And we see, it almost looks like the dust drawings that sometimes show up in Mob Psycho? I just finished my Mob Psycho rewatch yesterday. I've not gotten to season 3 yet. I'm going to do that right after this video, actually. But, like, the dust drawings that show up when like, someone is, like, terribly stunned, like, their world falls apart. I think it happened to Onigawara when he loses the perfect attendance record in season 1. That's the sort of drawing style we see here. And on the first page of this, they're a lot more amorphous. And in that top panel, they're becoming a bit more geometric. And then on there we had no concept of the impossible, an eternity of time passed. They seem like bugs and fish. And then we see lizards and human beings. And all of the great animals around humanity. Then I grew bored. I did not know from where this feeling came, or whether I was the only one experiencing it. But reflecting back on it now, I think I must have simply been greedy. So I began a new project. I decided to create my own paradise. Okay. So, the world... So that would mean, is it possible then that there are a bunch of other parallel worlds here? I don't know if that will ever... I mean, the Beholder himself doesn't know, as he says. I don't know if he was the only one experiencing it. But, like, it's interesting to me, he has, his sort of dust body, a human body, or what will become a human body, out of the dust. And, like, his paradise is, like, it's, like, a map, it looks like, in a fairly normal bedroom. It's interesting to me. I'm not quite sure if, like, how much of this is meant to be, like, metaphor, because the inclusion of, like, the little bedside fan it's so random. And the computer, I don't know if we're supposed to take any of this literally, like the imagery, I should say, of this sort of like tatami mat room. But it's all interesting, the imagery Oima's going with here. And we see, that might be our thumbnail right there. The looming body of the beholder, like picking up a body and moving it. A world that would change and revolve on its own. I caused snow to fall, storms to blow, and enjoyed watching the residents run. I placed limits upon them. They had words and lifespans. I attempted to create a world completely the opposite of my own. Their fragile flesh quickly ceased moving. Upon death, this flesh released a putrid odor and grew ugly. For some reason, these beings crowded around the corpses, and we're seeing like a funeral procession. And it's interesting to me, though, the use of the word paradise. Right? On page 4, I decided to create my own paradise. And death is such an important concept to the series. The knockers want to take everyone to, both death and the word paradise are so important to like the lore here. Because the knockers want to take people out of the world as it is into heaven, into paradise, a world without death. But to the beholder, it is only in paradise that only in his own paradise that people die. And he made it so they died. That wasn't like a glitch or something. Sorry, I got a phone call. I'll have to call them back later. But anyway. It's only in so for the beholder, paradise includes death. It is paradise, and it is the opposite of our world. Or of his world. I don't know. All interesting stuff. I thought this was intensely beautiful. And I also love, there's just so much great imagery here. In this sort of like metaphorical space, or somewhat metaphorical space. Which also calls back to what the beholder Satoru said to Fushi. Right before this latest time skip. About like, I thought that the world where people suffered and died and found meaning beyond that was beautiful. And then the beholder looks up, and above his, or beyond his world, he sees what looks like shooting stars. Oh, I'm starting to get this idea that maybe the knockers are the other beings. Maybe? I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, he looks back to his world, and he sees all the people, like, living their lives. And he goes on, at some point, I began to desire to enter this realm of dust. I thought that experiencing its sensations would not be a bad way to end myself. Okay, so even from the beginning, he was looking for an end. Okay, but to do so, I needed someone to manage this world or preserve it in my stead. Which goes back to the old theory that Fushi was created to replace the beholder. But he goes on, so I created the earthenware people and experimented with storing information in pots. Okay. So were the earthenware people like a proto-Fushi? But this world was not designed for long lives. Like the others, the earthenware people died extremely easily. So I created something unique. That's our actual cover. That is our thumbnail right there. That is such a cool, haunting, beautiful image there. And Fushi is stunned to learn this. We cut back to the real world. A being with the ultimate body. Fushi. And Fushi turns back to himself as he sort of finishes the thought. My eternality will vanish. But I'm glad that, in the end, I was able to grant my own wish. And we cut that to go to the orphanage with Sumika and Michi, where they're all celebrating Satoru's birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. And Satoru, I guess as the beholder's leaving his consciousness, watches the candles on his cake. And then we cut to... Oh, I think this is still the beholder, as he's sort of fading away. His last moments of consciousness, flashing back to his time with Fushi, at the very beginning. Man in Black? You're there, aren't you, Man in Black? And the beholder looks at him, and we see their sort of time together. Yeah, it is sort of literally fading away from Satoru. I love the sort of fade from like the sort of typical black flashback backgrounds into the present, also being the man in black fading away into Satoru, and also just like Satoru's hair whitening. I think this is a trick of the light. I don't think Satoru's hair is magically changing colors there. Happy birthday, dear Satoru. And he's still remembering, but the memories are getting much hazier. Man in Black, you're there, aren't you, Man in Black? Man in Black is like barely even visible there, as Fushi is disappearing from Satoru's mind, singular. And he starts to tear up. Oh. And he looks over at Michi, who of course knows what's going on with him. And the tears start to fall, and he does fully cry. Happy birthday to you. And as Satoru blows out the candles, he tells both Satoru and maybe the Beholder's final thought. Says, thanks everyone. And that's where the chapter ends. Okay. So, I will admit, I loved what we got. I loved all of the imagery of the Beholder's backstory. There's so, like, it's telling that on multiple occasions I was like, that's our thumbnail. The bit on page 5 of the Beholder looming over the world. I thought this was intensely beautiful. I didn't bring it up, but I love the image of the giant Beholder over the world, as like the very fabric of the world bends around him, was so cool. And then that So I Created Something Unique is another just hauntingly beautiful image. Like, from an art standpoint, Oima knocks it out of the park here. And also, like, the stuff we get is very interesting. And then also, because we now have definitive proof that there is a whole universe outside this world, a whole, like, outside of this dimension, that begs questions about the knockers. Like, are the knockers the others? You know, the others that the Beholder mentioned in his backstory, are those did they invade his world as the knockers? Because there's that random shot where he, like, I forget. Is the implication that the knockers first, was it that the knockers first appeared, was the first knocker Fushi met the first knocker that appeared? Because if so, those shooting stars can't be the knockers. That's just sort of a beautiful sight in his world. Which would set up the idea that, like, the Beholder finds this world of pain and sorrow, but something entirely outside of his ability to experience, and also beautiful. Explaining, in the end, why he would decide to just become one of them. To become Satoru. To become an ordinary human who can live and die. Even if that personality can never remember what he once was, he still is, in a way, experiencing that. So it all very much fits for the Beholder. It's the sort of moment that I've wanted for a while, to sort of snap him into place. Because now we really have. I get him. You know, not fully. There's a bit of him that's like this sort of, you know, can people ever truly understand God going on with the Beholder? Because, like, no, there are parts of his beliefs I just don't understand because I'm not of the divine. But, like, I can understand almost the sort of, you know, why he did the things he did, why he didn't do the things he didn't do, that was sort of, you know, became a growing problem into the present era. Why doesn't he just make people immortal? He has that power. Why didn't he just instantly kill all the knockers? He has that power. And it's because that pain and that the heartbreak is part of life, and it is life as a whole that is beautiful, and we see how he comes to realize that it's so foreign to what he knows that he falls in love with it. And I thought that was a really good bit from him. And honestly, I feel like there's a part of me that wishes the Beholder had gotten a little more humanization as the series, as especially once he became Satoru. And because I feel like I love this final moment of him sort of acknowledging, you know, how much his creations have meant to him, especially Fushi, but like through Fushi, by extension, all of them. And having that final line where he's fully blending together with Satoru in that thanks everyone, as Fushi like fully fades away. I love like the Fushi memory fades out as the candle goes out. There's just some great imagery on display here. Because, you know, Oima, I don't think this series is always perfect. I have my issues with it here and there. but when it hits, it fucking hits. And this chapter fucking hits. This whole arc is still in kind of a place of I don't know where Oima is going with all this. But for this one little, 164 as a whole, as both parts, as a self-contained chapter, is gorgeous. Is lovely, is wonderful. And I don't know. I can't wait to... I don't know, how this will end up influencing the story from here, but it's just... Even if it doesn't really, even if, how everyone deals with the knockers has nothing to do with what the Beholder has taught them, has taught Fushi, and what Fushi would then teach the others, it's just... a great goodbye to the series' very first character. And it's a damn good read. It's beautiful, it's well written, it's emotional, it's good, it's To Your Eternity at its absolute best. And that's all you can really wish for. So with that said, I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe or, do whatever makes you happy, And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!